So this is all going very good. It's going according to plan.
Hey guys, we're over on our Indiana County, Pennsylvania farm today, and we're working with KIP Adams with the National Deer Association to use prescribed fire as a management tool, which is something we haven't done enough in the past to feel comfortable doing it on our own. So we've enlisted the professionals to come help us. What we have here is we have about a 265 acre farm, of which about 180 acres of it is in ag or old CRP fields. So we're going to be working on old field management here today. This isn't the typical time of the year for an easy burn, have enough fuel in the fields to burn. So we came in earlier with some glyphosate and we sprayed about 6 acres of fields in here, and I've got some fire breaks mowed up. We got good green around them, so we should be safe. We have a big crew of guys with us. We're going to be burning off these old fields, and our goal with those fields is to leave some just as we burn them, leave them black, turn into early succession, see how that happens. And then another part of it we want to let go. Once it's burnt, we're going to come in and drill it with a fall blend. And the other one, we're just going to try and broadcast before a rain, maybe call it a packet, and try and look at the results and vary there. So with the experts here, you're going to tell us the ins and outs of what we're doing and how we're to get it done.
Oh, absolutely. Glad to be here. And certainly prescribed fire is a very useful tool for wildlife management, whether that's food plots, early successional vegetation, or even in the woods. So I think you have a good plan relative to preparing some food plots with this today. One thing that's nice too, and I know you hear it, is people will say, well, yeah, you have nice food plots because you have big equipment. But the thing is, you don't need big equipment, and we'll show that today how, where you have sprayed a food plot, we'll burn it off and literally can just broadcast seed into it and have a great food plot. So
yeah, we're excited. I mean, I've been involved with some burns we did on our farm. The National Deer Association was in, did a habitat module on our farm, and it worked great. I didn't get to get enough hands on there, and I was up to KIP's farm where they had, I believe it was a prescribed fire council of Pennsylvania in this past year, and did a big burn at his place. But still, I don't have enough confidence to do this on my own, so you'll be leading us today. We have a good crew of helpers with us back here. We have lots of water on hand just in case something will get loose. We've called the local fire company. We have a state park below us. We've called the state park, and we've called the 911 center to notify everybody we're burning today so they don't hit the panic button when the smoke starts rolling.
That's always a good thing. Definitely letting them know that if somebody else calls, everything is okay. But if you call, have them come running.
Yes, exactly. And I've also talked to my neighbors so they don't panic. So we should be good to go. Let's get started.
Good. Sounds good. Let's have some fun.
That's a good one.
Oh, look at that.
So we're a little high here early in the day.
And the mixture is 55 to 60% diesel fuel, 40 to 45% gas. So that mixture keeps it from exploding if it was just gas, or not burning or holding a flame if it's just diesel. So with it mixed, it allows the wick to stay lit, and as we go through, allow us to actually be able to spread fire with this around. So handy piece of equipment. Use that right mixture for gas and diesel. And as far as clothing goes, you don't have to have all of the, the real fancy, fire resistant stuff. Certainly helps if you have it, but you certainly can burn with leather boots, blue jeans, and even just a long sleeve shirt. No polyester at all, because if you do, you don't want that to burn to you. But anything that's cotton, if you're going to do very much burning, a shirt like this, which is a fire resistant shirt, they're not that expensive. It's certainly worth it. But if you don't have it, I have burned a whole lot in short sleeve t-shirts or even long sleeve t-shirts, or a pearl snap Wrangler shirt. So anything just to help protect you a little bit. So don't feel that you need all of this. A pair of leather gloves is certainly handy, because at some point while you have the fire going here, you're going to want to put it out in some areas. Maybe that's around a tree inside the burn unit, or it's right at the edge of the burn unit. But don't be intimidated by needing, the fancy green pants and the fancy yellow shirt and helmet and all that. You absolutely don't need that, particularly for something like this where the fuel isn't all that high anyway and it's not all that thick. Once you're into thicker stuff, particularly woods and that, sure, that stuff is very nice, but what we have today is very appropriate for all of this. Now, as far as where we start a burn, you know, we have our fire break along the side there. In this case, it's all green. This could be a disc fire break. A fire break is essentially something around the unit that will not burn. And if your life depended on it right now, you couldn't get that fire break to burn with all of that green vegetation. High moisture content and all that, which makes this time of the year a great time to burn because it's very safe and you can get exactly what you want from the shape of the burn unit. Maybe it's a food plot, maybe it's a strips or something through your early successional vegetation, by being able to spray an herbicide to brown that out, and that's the only thing that will burn. And what we'll do is we always start at the downwind side of the unit. So the wind is coming from behind my back. We will start at this end right next to the fire break and light a little test fire just to watch and make sure, yes, the wind is going where I think, this is behaving the way that I think that it should, to make sure that we feel safe to then go ahead and burn the unit out. The only time that you would not be on the downwind side to start is if there's a really steep hill or there's a lot of elevation involved. Then you always start at the top. And the reason being, fire wants to run uphill. So this is not steep enough to make us go up at that other end. If this was steeper, we would start at the other end even if the wind is coming this way. But we're totally fine here. I prefer to start at the bottom. And we always monitor what are the environmental variables that we're burning in. So essentially, the things that are going to control this fire behavior is how much fuel we have. Is there a lot of fuel or is it very thin? How much moisture is in this fuel? But then, hey, what is the relative humidity today? Because that controls the moisture that we have in here, and what's the wind speed. And in general, we want to burn somewhere between 30 and 60% relative humidity. I have a unit here called a Kestrel. This allows me to monitor the relative humidity right here, allows me to monitor wind speed, temperature, all of that. So very handy little tool to have if you do much burning. If you don't have one of these, you can take your cell phone out and just use your local weather app to see what you have. The thing with that though is, that is the weather station that's somewhere in the town where you are, so it's not right here. And the wind speed for this is actually measured 200 feet above ground level. So it can be very different right here than 200 feet up. So that's better than nothing at all, but a little unit like this is very, very nice. Now, humidity wise, we're looking in that 30 to 60%. We can burn with less than that, and it's okay to burn down into the 20% humidity, but what that means is things are getting really dry, and if it's in the low 20s and the fire gets someplace you don't want, it becomes very hard to put out because everything is just dry enough. Conversely, you get much above 60 and everything is just so moist, it's hard to get burning. But you can use those to your advantage based on, is there a lot of fuel and it's kind of a dangerous situation? Maybe we burn when it's a little higher humidity because that will keep fire behavior down, or it just won't be as intense. So that's the range that we often look for. And then from a wind speed, you don't want this wind blowing hard. In most cases, you're looking in that 4 to 6 or 8 mile per hour, just enough to help a fire go through an area. You get faster than that and it can really get ripping. Fire intensity goes way up. Sometimes you might want that if you need it, if there's not that much fuel and you need the wind to help you. But in many cases, low wind speeds are more preferred, particularly as folks just start using it and get a little comfortable with using fire. So we have very low wind speeds today, 3 or 4 miles an hour. That's perfect. And as the day goes on and it heats up, there's an inverse relationship between temperature and humidity. So as it gets hotter, humidity drops. So that's why even if we're burning this now and there's some cloud cover, if the clouds separate and the sun comes out, you will see an immediate change in fire intensity. It'll go up because the sun starts to dry things out. And then as the heat goes up, the humidity immediately starts dropping, which means things burn more. So throughout the course of a burn, it's nice to just keep a track of, hey, what is the humidity? Because that will absolutely influence how high these flames get and how intense the fire is. But it's going to get hot today, so the humidity is the highest it's going to be all day right now. So we'll do this, and then we can move on and get some of the others. And as we do this, just pay attention to, oh yeah, even if it's the same amount of fuel, I can see now that it's warmer, how all of a sudden that fire is a little more intense and it wants to rip through there a little more. But with that, it's clearly coming this way. Let's start on this end. We'll get a little test fire going, make sure things are good, and then we will burn this out. And we'll talk about this as we go, but essentially what we'll do is our test fire, then we will run along the downwind side because with the wind here, this will allow the fire to back into the wind, so it's very slow, very easy to control. And then since we have our fire break where it won't burn, once we get an area at the bottom that's all burned and it's all black, now we have a very wide area of no fuel, very safe. So once we have that blacked out, is what it's called, we can then go on the upwind side and either go across the unit and allow the wind to rush the fire down. That's a head fire. It's going with the wind. That will be more intense. It'll consume this, burn it out much more quickly. Or if you think, that's a little too intense for me, we will go straight into the wind, and that is a flanking fire. So then the wind will push that and it will move it out to each side, but that won't be as intense as an actual head fire running down through here. So based on what the conditions are, you can see which firing technique is more appropriate. And usually we will start, once we get it off, go ahead and run a flanking fire and see, is that as intense as we want? And if so, great. And if, you know what, we can stand to have a little more heat, well then we can go above that and actually run a head fire. And look, so, and even in a situation like this, we can see the other end of this. I would burn this off some and then run a fire part way up, let that run into the burn area. We get on the other side of that, do the same thing again. So we just keep burning smaller sections out so that we can control intensity of the fire. You know, if we go all the way at the top and let it run down to the bottom, it certainly would burn the whole thing up. But you can see how we wouldn't have quite as much control over the situation of what's going on as if we burn it out in smaller steps. So, so that's what we'll do today. So, who wants to get the drip torch in her hand and put the fire on the ground? This is the fun part. Through here already, so this is an easy way, a safe way to just monitor what we have for intensity, and then be able to start. So, who wants this in their hand? Somebody's got to want to take this. There you go. Come get it. So what we'll do is we're going to have Austin start here and come right out the lower end of the fire break. You don't need big fire trucks and all that. It's always nice to have water on site. If you have a tank in the back of your UTV or ATV, same ones you're using to spray food plots and stuff is great, but backpack sprayers are perfect. So backpack sprayer and a flap like this can easily go around the side of this, and if fire's getting where you don't want it to be, to snuff it out, or even here to be able to just wet some of this line down first so that it won't get in. So this is all going very good. It's going according to plan. And as you see behind me, we have a bunch of smoke. The popping you should hear is the moisture in the fuel. White smoke means we're burning stuff with a lot of moisture as well. As the smoke goes up, this is why you contact your neighbors, your local fire department, let them know what you're doing, because in many cases, the smoke management part of this is even bigger than the fire management part. This fire is not going to go anywhere, but if this smoke ends up on the neighbors or near a highway or something, those can cause problems, and then you're liable for that. So you need to be very careful relative to the smoke. So contact people, but also then being able to watch. Days to be able to burn. In general, a good bluebird sky day means the smoke gets up and out of here a lot better than an overcast day that the smoke hangs down low and stays closer to the ground. Hey Tim, actually before you get on through there, why don't you do this right here in the end. Once the fire goes through, it's always good to come in and assess, did we get what we wanted? How much was consumed? This autumn olive that's here is not dead. There was not enough fuel around it, and the fire didn't stay here long enough to kill this. It more than likely would just top kill it anyway, which means it looks dead now, but next spring it's going to come right back because of all the reserves in the roots. Now, if our goal was to absolutely get rid of this, maybe we're trying and we have a field with the bunches we want to get rid of, we could have come in and sprayed these with glyphosate first to help kill this, then we can burn it, and then we get a much hotter kill on this which then will do a better job if we are trying to totally kill these. But in this case, this is probably going to come right back. And if this is going to manage this in early successional vegetation, it's actually nice to have clumps of some woody stuff like this. Deer will use for shade, helps break the area up. It will just facilitate more daytime movement, which is really important once we get into hunting season. Once the fire goes through, you should always go in and take a look at how much did I consume, did I get what I wanted, because you know what the humidity was, you know what the wind speed was, and approximate fuel, so you get to learn from every one of them so that you can better predict fire behavior the next time. So I love to go in, and if you take a look at this, some of this was consumed, but as you can see, there's a bunch of vegetation right here in the ground that's dry that didn't burn. It's essentially just because the fire went through here. We're in the high 50% humidity. So with that and the amount of fuel that's here, you know, this is not burning everything. Folks who aren't familiar with fire think we consume everything and it's just completely open when we're done. And as you look around, you can see that's not the case at all. There's a lot of stuff that's off and left when you're burning with humidities like what we have now. And this is all still very, very good. We have a little structure here. You're gonna see birds out in here. This is a magnet for turkeys and for a whole pile of songbirds. They'll come in, they will pick some of the bugs that might have gotten fried here. They love to pick through the ash. There's a lot of seed heads now that are available. So it's a great blade to be able to come in. Just a little bit of structure here. Turkeys will move through this. So this is good and very educational to understand that we're not burning every single little thing up. Even if this is a little hotter, we wouldn't. But being able to see what is here, ground is still very moist. Perfect planting conditions if we wanted to come in here and either broadcast or drill something for a food plot in this area. So you saw us get some burning done yesterday, did some great work for wildlife. Some of the benefits of that: one, we can reduce some of the fuel loading that's out there. We can return some of the nutrients that are in those plants back to the ground. We can clear some of that land to be able to do further management activities that we want. And it obviously was a great time to get a whole bunch of people together in the name of wildlife and habitat management. So now that we have those areas burned, what's the next steps? Well, just like in most other things for wildlife, we have lots of options there. And depending on what Jerry or Austin's goals are for that specific area or what tools they have available to them, we can then pick what will be best. So, for example, some people will say, you know what, I like to food plot, but I don't have this big equipment. Well, some of those areas that we burned, since we have removed all of that thatch layer and that litter layer that's there, we've exposed the ground. Even if you don't have any equipment, you can go in and literally broadcast seed right onto the ground. Small seeds are best, brassicas or clovers, very small things that don't have to be covered by much soil, can literally broadcast them right onto that exposed soil and then let a rainstorm beat that in to get good seed to soil contact. That's a perfect way to plant a food plot. If you have a cultipacker, you can drive that over top of what we have broadcast just to help get good seed to soil contact. You can drive your UTV or your ATV over it as well. So this is a very easy way to plant areas like that if you don't have any equipment. Well, let's say, you know what, I do want a food plot there and I do have some equipment. Well, now that a lot of that leaf litter and that thatch is gone, it's easier now because we can see the soil to either run a drill through there and drill what you have, or maybe you have a very light disc that there's just no way it could cut through all that vegetation. Now with it removed, it's much easier to go ahead and work that soil and prepare it to be able to plant conventionally. So that's a great option for food plotters as well. And another cool thing is, you know what? Maybe you're not interested in planting a food plot there. Maybe you want to use that area as early successional vegetation, which provides great food and great cover for deer. In that case, you literally can just leave the area that we have burned and let the seed bank expose itself now and show you what's there. And some people say, wait a minute, what is a seed bank? All the area out there is just covered with seeds. And research has shown in Pennsylvania, the top 1 inch of soil averages about 20 million seeds per acre. That's already there, just waiting for you. All it needs is the opportunity to be exposed to sunlight and grow. And now that we have ran a fire through there, we give it that opportunity so the seed bank can expose itself. Stuff is going to grow naturally. It's usually 2 rains. The second rain you get, that greens right back up, so you don't have to pay for any of that seed. And the cool thing is, a lot of that stuff is very well adapted for your area. It can provide great cover for deer, turkeys, and other wildlife, great food value as well, and it didn't cost you a cent. So If you want more information about fire, managing habitat, or anything deer related, go to the National Deer Association's website at deerassociation.com. And thank you for watching this episode of The Off Season.